No matter where you are in the world, you're never too far from a place with a scary past. Some locations don't just hold history, they hold on to something else. Whispers in the dark, shadows that shift when no one's looking, and mysteries that refuse to be buried. These aren't just tales, they're legends, passed down through generations, growing darker with time. From ghost towns swallowed by nature to forbidden sites drenched in tragedy, here are 15 of the creepiest, most unsettling places on Earth. Places so eerie, so untouchable that you wouldn't dare step inside. But if you're a curious soul, that won't stop you from wondering what lingers within. Let's begin with number 15, Hoia Baciu Forest. There's something off about Hoia Baciu. Walk in and you'll feel it immediately. That static in the air, the way the trees curl in on themselves like they're recoiling from something unseen. At the heart of the forest, there's a perfect circle where nothing grows, not even weeds. Scientists have no real answers, just theories. None explain the shepherd who walked in with 200 sheep and never walked out, or the little girl who vanished for 5 years only to return exactly as she was. Same clothes, no memory, not a single day older. In 1968, a military technician spotted a UFO hovering over the treetops. He reported it, then lost his job. Maybe this place is cursed. Maybe it's a doorway to somewhere else. Either way, no one leaves unchanged. If you're thinking of going, here's some advice. Don't walk in alone, and if the trees start whispering, run. Number 14, Poveglia Island. You know this one is coming, right? Venice may be beautiful, but just offshore, there's an island no one talks about. Poveglia, a place where the dead outnumber the living, because no one dares to live there anymore. During the bubonic plague, ships dumped thousands of dying victims here, stacking them in mass graves and burning their remains. The soil is said to be more ash than earth. As if that wasn't enough, the island later became home to a psychiatric hospital run by a doctor with a taste for cruel experiments. Patients screamed about ghosts. He laughed, until he started seeing them too. One night, he climbed the bell tower and jumped. The bell was removed years ago, yet fishermen still swear they hear it ringing across the water. Poveglia is officially off limits, but sometimes people sneak in. They don't stay long. The lucky ones leave with nothing more than nightmares. The unlucky ones? Well, no one really knows. Number 13, Castle of Good Hope. Some places don't just hold history, they trap it. The Castle of Good Hope is one of them. Built by the Dutch in the 1600s, this fortress has been a prison, an execution site, and a place of suffering for centuries. The most infamous ghost is Peter van Noot, a brutal governor who sentenced men to die without a second thought, until one cursed him with his final breath. Hours later, Van Noot was found dead in his chair, his face frozen in terror. That was centuries ago, but he's still here. Guards refuse to patrol alone. They hear chains rattling in empty corridors and blood-curdling screams from nowhere. Shadowy figures flicker in the corners of rooms, only to vanish when you blink. The bravest visitors walk in laughing, skeptics to the core. They don't leave that way. Some buildings are just old. This one, it's something else entirely. Number 12, Eden Brown Estate. Eden Brown Estate was supposed to be the site of a wedding. Instead, it became a graveyard. In 1822, the groom and his best man got into an argument, one that ended with both men dead before the vows could be exchanged. Julia Higgins, the would-be bride, never recovered. She spent the rest of her days alone, wandering the halls of the estate in mourning. And when she finally passed, she didn't leave. To this day, locals see her drifting through the ruins, a shadow of the life she lost. Visitors report hearing soft sobs carried on the wind. Some feel a presence lingering behind them, watching, waiting. But Julia isn't the only one trapped here. Before emancipation, enslaved workers toiled and suffered on this land, and many believe their spirits still remain. The estate is crumbling, but the past isn't gone. It's waiting for anyone who dares to step inside. Number 11. Fort George. Fort George has seen more deaths than most battlefields. Built by the British in the late 1700s, it became a key site in the War of 1812. American forces stormed it, burning much of it to the ground. But the dead? They stayed behind. Visitors report seeing soldiers in full uniform marching into rooms, then vanishing. A young girl has been known to grab the hands of tourists, only to disappear before they realize no one was there. But the worst encounters? Those belong to the tall man, a shadowy figure lurking by the bunks, and the man in white, who silently watches guests sleep. Guards refuse to patrol alone. People wake up unable to move, suffocated by an unseen force. Fort George isn't just a historical landmark. It's a place where something lingers, waiting. And if you visit, you might just feel it too. So, be ready for the worst. Number 10. Leap Castle. Leap Castle isn't just haunted, it's dripping in blood-soaked history. In the 1500s, the O'Carroll clan turned betrayal into an art form, routinely poisoning dinner guests and fighting each other for power. One of the most infamous murders happened in the castle's chapel, now fittingly known as the Bloody Chapel. A power-hungry O'Carroll brother plunged his sword into his own sibling, a priest, right in the middle of Mass. And that's just the beginning. During renovations in the early 1900s, workers discovered a hidden chamber beneath the chapel. Inside, piles of human remains impaled on wooden spikes, the victims of a trap door designed for a truly gruesome end. Later, the castle became a hotspot for seances, adding even more spirits to its already overpopulated halls. Today, Leap Castle is privately owned, but ghost tours are available, if you dare to step inside a place where the past refuses to stay buried. Number 9. Bonaventure Cemetery. Savannah is no stranger to hauntings, but Bonaventure Cemetery takes Eerie to another level. With its sprawling oak trees draped in Spanish moss and mist creeping over marble headstones, it looks like something straight out of a Gothic horror novel. But the ghosts here are very real. The most famous is little Gracie Watson, who died of pneumonia at age 6 in 1889. Her grave, marked by a life-size statue, is said to weep real tears. Visitors often leave toys, only to find them mysteriously moved. Others report hearing the cries of unseen babies or witnessing statues changing expressions as they approach. Some claim the air itself feels different, thick, electric, like something unseen is watching. If you're up for a paranormal road trip, Savannah has no shortage of haunted places, but Bonaventure Cemetery? It's where the spirits don't just linger, they let you know they're there. Number 8. Al Madam. Nothing is more unsettling than a ghost town swallowed by sand, and Al Madam is exactly that. It was meant to be a small, peaceful village. Instead, it became a place of fear. Legend says the first residents were chased out by jinn, shape-shifting desert spirits known for their mischief and malice. Whatever the truth, the town was abandoned almost overnight. Today, the desert is reclaiming what's left, burying the houses deeper in golden dunes. Step inside, and you'll find eerie remnants, faded furniture, children's toys, and the unsettling feeling that someone, or something, is still watching. Paranormal investigators report strange whispers in the wind and doors slamming shut on their own. Want to see for yourself? Some tour companies will take you there. Just don't expect to leave with answers. Only more questions about what really drove people away. Number 7. Ancient Ram Inn. This isn't just haunted, it's a full-blown paranormal nightmare. Built in 1145, this former inn sits atop an ancient pagan burial ground and lies on powerful ley lines, which some believe connect directly to Stonehenge. If spirits feed on energy, this place is a banquet. Over the centuries, it has been linked to devil worship, witchcraft, and even child sacrifice. During renovations, workers uncovered 2 children's skeletons buried beneath the staircase, alongside daggers. When the inn was still operational, terrified guests often fled in the middle of the night, claiming they were physically attacked by unseen forces. Those who stayed reported encounters with a shadowy high priestess, ghostly children, and even an incubus, a malevolent spirit said to assault visitors in their sleep. Today, the ancient Ram Inn is open for overnight ghost hunts, but be warned, many leave convinced they weren't just imagining things. Some things here don't stay buried. Number 6. Island of the Dolls. Deep in the canals of Xochimilco, there's an island that looks like something out of a nightmare. Old decaying dolls dangle from trees, their glass eyes staring blankly, their plastic limbs rotting in the humidity. But the most disturbing part? They weren't put there for decoration. In the 1950s, a man named Julian Santana Barrera moved to the island. He claimed the ghost of a drowned girl haunted him, whispering, pleading. To appease her, he began collecting dolls, hanging them up as offerings. But the whispers never stopped. Julian told his family the spirit wanted him to join her. That same day, he was found floating in the canal, dead, in the exact spot where the girl had drowned decades earlier. Visitors say the dolls move on their own. Their eyes follow you. Some even whisper. It's the kind of place that lingers in your mind long after you've left. Number 5. Chaonei, number 81. Tucked away in the heart of Beijing, Chaonei, number 81, isn't just abandoned. It's avoided. No one truly knows who built it, but early records have mysteriously vanished, as if the house itself wanted to erase its past. Some say a British priest commissioned it, only to disappear without a trace. Others whisper about a Kuomintang officer's mistress, who, after being left behind, took her own life in the rafters. Her cries still echo through the hollow corridors, a chilling reminder of her despair. But the most terrifying legend? 3 builders once knocked through a wall, stumbled inside, and were never seen again. When the Red Guards occupied the mansion during the Cultural Revolution, they lasted only 3 nights before fleeing in terror, claiming to hear blood-curdling screams. Today, even seasoned ghost hunters refuse to enter after dark. The doors remain open, but those who step inside rarely stay for long. All right, guys, now let's move to number 4, Chateau de Brissac. France is famous for its grand castles, but Chateau de Brissac holds a chilling secret, La Dame Verte, or the Green Lady. Once known as Charlotte de Brissac, an illegitimate daughter of King Charles II, her life ended in a brutal betrayal. When her husband discovered her affair, he slaughtered her within the chateau's walls, ensuring her suffering didn't end with death. Her spirit lingers, but she isn't just another shadowy specter. Those who have seen her describe a grotesque, hollowed-out face, her eyes and nose seemingly ripped away, leaving behind a gaping, skull-like visage. Guests who dare to stay overnight report waking to icy whispers, unseen hands brushing their skin, and an oppressive feeling of being watched. Despite its haunted reputation, the chateau remains open to visitors. But if you ever spot a woman in green staring from the shadows, consider yourself warned. Some things aren't meant to be seen. Number 3, Obvodny Canal. Some places reek of death before a single body drops. The Obvodny Canal in St. Petersburg, is one of them. From the moment construction began in 1769, workers reported blinding headaches, unexplained aggression, and sudden deaths. Something about this waterway felt wrong. Then, in 1920, when a nearby road was built, the unease turned to outright horror. Beneath the dirt, workers unearthed granite slabs, believed to be the tombstones of women slaughtered by Swedish knights in the 13th century. Not long after, the bridge over the canal became infamous for suicides. People weren't just jumping, they were doing so in droves. Survivors, when asked, had no explanation. Some even described an invisible force pulling them toward the water. Now dubbed Suicide Canal, the area remains a mystery. Is it mass hysteria or something far more sinister? Either way, if you ever find yourself near its murky waters, don't linger too long. Number 2. Monte Cristo Homestead. If haunted houses had royalty, Monte Cristo Homestead would wear the crown. This Victorian manor in Chaonei, Australia, is less of a home and more of a magnet for tragedy. After her husband's death, Elizabeth Crawley locked herself away, spending 23 years in isolation. Locals believe she never truly left, but she's far from the only presence here. A pregnant maid allegedly fell, or was pushed, from the balcony. A stable boy was burned alive. A mentally unstable son was chained up in an outhouse for decades. And then there's the caretaker, shot dead on the property. The house is now a museum, but that hasn't stopped the hauntings. Lights flicker. Shadows move on their own. Guests report unseen hands grabbing them, whispers in empty rooms, and the unmistakable sound of rattling chains. Brave enough to stay overnight? Just remember, some doors in Monte Cristo don't stay closed, and neither do its ghosts. Number 1. The Myrtles Plantation. Some places don't just hold history, they trap it. The Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana is one of the most haunted estates in America, its past soaked in blood and betrayal. The most infamous spirit? Chloe is an enslaved woman whose ear was cut off as punishment for eavesdropping. Seeking revenge, she allegedly poisoned a birthday cake, killing the plantation owner's children. Her fate? Lynched by fellow slaves. But Chloe never left. She's been caught in photographs, her ghostly figure lingering in doorways. Visitors report finding child-sized handprints pressed against a certain mirror, no matter how often it's cleaned. And then there's William Drew Winter, a later owner who was shot on the veranda. He staggered inside, climbed the staircase, and collapsed on the 17th step. To this day, phantom footsteps echo through the halls, stopping at the exact spot where he took his last breath. The Myrtles isn't just haunted, it's a ghost's paradise. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.